Hello and welcome to this podcast about all the yarny things. My name is Doug and I am the dyer of ZiaWoolz. Welcome to Albuquerque in New Mexico, and I am here to show you all the new things that I have been finishing and starting and whatever else has been happening here all around yarns. Where to start? We are still in UFO Mania 2024, and I am happy to report that one of the UFOs, which was probably my oldest, has been finished. And I am talking about some socks that I had shown you before, and I had talked about them because I wanted to finish them, and I did indeed manage to finish them. And I'm talking about some socks that I have designed myself. I picked a pattern from a book, from a German pattern book, which has a collection of vintage knitting patterns, stitch patterns, I should say. And I really like them. And my problem was a little bit that I had also not enough yarn to finish the second sock, because when I put these on the scale, I realized my ball was weighing less than the first finished sock. But I was lucky enough and found something similar. Check that out. It's a bit more grayish blue, and you can see it fairly clearly where it's been attached. But let me go back a bit and it's fine. It's fine. I'm super happy that these are done because I made these twice. A few years ago, actually many years ago, when we still lived in Maryland, I made these with one of these super early hand-dyed yarns that I had purchased for a friend of mine, for a knitting friend of mine. And I had always thought, I want to make another pair, maybe write up the pattern, but I'm not going to write up the pattern. I am such a vanilla sock knitter, so that doesn't feel right. But I finished a pair for myself, and that makes me really happy. Yes, and this is actually, if you wonder, this is a sock blocker for fingerless mitts. Yeah, it has a heel on this side. And I have, yes, that was a UFO that is finished. And then you may see that, hey, she's wearing something else that she showed us in progress last time. This beautiful cardigan, the Cardiflower. Is it called Cardiflower, cardigan, or Cardiflower? But as always, my project page on Ravelry is very much up to date, so you can find all the information about this also on Ravelry, where my name is Paperdag. And this I have knitted from yarns that I have dyed. I thought about adding this to the shop, but decided against it. It's a roughly 50-50 merino silk in a worsted weight. And I had 4 skeins, and for 100 gram skeins, and I used 325 grams. And this is how I keep my leftovers. I have a bin where I keep all the leftover yarns from projects in case you get a hole, something happens and you need to fix something. So I have my yarns together, and it usually says what I've used the yarn for. There are buttonholes, and I haven't even looked for buttons yet because this is such a summery cardigan that I'm probably rarely going to use buttons to close it. I had finished this as intended for Firebirds Fiesta, and I wore it on one of the 2 days that we had the show. And here you can see how long the cardigan is. Just really a great length. Yes. Love how it turned out. Yes. And if you haven't been here before, welcome to all the new viewers. There was a mistake in the chart that I found. If you like this and you want to make it, you can find the corrected chart, and this is a free pattern, by the way, but the correction in the chart is in one of the project photos on my page. Yes. And I have another finished object that I wanted to show you. That you saw only almost finished. This is another one in a worsted weight, and you will remember. This is a slipover, and I have used 4.5 millimeter needles as well, same as for the cardigan. But for this one, I have used exactly 300 grams of yarn. And if you look at my shoulders, you see that this ends exactly where it's supposed to. I mean, imagine I will probably wear this with a shirt or a blouse underneath, so it's going to be fine. I have talked about this a lot. This is a pattern that was originally written, or it's published, for a heavier than worsted weight, almost bulky. And I did a lot of math to change it and adjust to this. And it was hard because, yes, then also I washed it and it grew, and it was all really not so easy. But now it is done. Yes, like I said, 300 grams, and this was a one-of-a-kind colorway of ZiaWoolz, my yarn, the worsted weight yarn, 100% superwash merino Duke, named after Duke City. Okay. I'm so glad I got 2 finished objects. I forgot I had these because I felt like I was in this funk. Do you ever have that where you have a lot of things started, or you want to make a lot of things, but nothing really grabs you, and you have these ideas and something goes wrong? I have actually 2 of those where something went wrong. But yeah, it's a little bit crazy. And I was in Towels, and I was at the yarn store, and I got new yarns, which I will also show you. I'm looking at those down there. But first of all, let me show you the Duke City mitts that I have finished. Cannot even tell you the yarns because it's been so long. They're all actually leftover yarns where I'm not even quite sure, but both of these pairs you've seen before, and I held them with color coordinating mohair. And in this case, I had this funny idea to switch up the colors, and I love it. And I wanted to make a pair for my friend whose birthday was a month ago, and I still have to send her a package, but initially I meant these to go to her, but I think they're a little bit too big for her. So I'm going to set them aside for the High Desert Studio Tour, where I always offer these for sale. And my friend's going to get these. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's going to like them. So, where do I put them? Over here, over here. And the next thing I did was I've been on and off knitting on these with a Zauberball. This yarn is supposed to be knitted up with 3mm needles, and I tried and I didn't like it. I like my socks dense and firm, and so I restarted these, and now I think you saw these only when I was somewhere on the foot on the first sock, but now I am rocking these guys. And I have this pretty little stitch marker, which was a gift from my friend Melody when she was in Albuquerque for Knitting New Mexico retreat with Isabel Kramer many years ago. How long ago was that? 4 years? 5? Almost 5 years, I think. I love that little guy. Yeah. So the yarn ball was also 150 grams. But look at that, it has significantly diminished, has been diminished. So vanilla socks, 4 times 16 stitches on 2.5mm needles, nothing exciting. And now we're getting to two other projects, one of which was a UFO that I dug out, and I'm just glad that I got this one going again, because eventually it's going to be really nice. And I'm talking about something that I am making up. The pattern was my design, which will not, I shouldn't even call it a design, because it's just, I mean, I figured it out, and it's not ever going to be, I'm not planning to make this turn it into a pattern. It's going to have short sleeves, a bit of a dolman cut, and then I'm going to connect the front and the back with a 3-needle bind off. But I have a bit of an angle here for the shoulders, and the front is going to have a larger neck, well, opening. That's the word I was looking for. And I had only two skeins of yarn of this, so I had to dye some more, and it was a bit of a challenge because it's been a while, and so I had some were too dark, some were too light, but now I think the one that I'm having is going to be good, even though it's still slightly lighter. But I switched the skein shortly, a bit after the stripes, and the stripes yet again are in similar, I've used similar yarns, but not the same. So but that was the intention. I never meant to use exactly the same, but I'm very excited that I'm going on this again. And this has, because I wanted it very loose and flowy, it has a lot of stitches. I want to say over 150 on 3mm needles, What was I thinking? I don't know, maybe my stamina was better a few years ago when I started this, but I'm not complaining because I got it going again with the UFO Mania 2024. And yeah, it lives in here. I wanted something with a clear cover so I see it, so I get reminded to knit a few rows on it every now and then. Yeah. What else? You see something next to me? Well, what happened was, it's all Selma's fault. Hi, Selma. It was so funny because I have made quite a bit of summer tops throughout my knitting life, and do I wear them? Really not very often because I live somewhere where it's really hot. However, right now, as well as maybe in October, is the time of the year where you could wear something. And Selma, in her podcast, Selma lives in Canada. So on her last episode, she showed all kinds of patterns for inspiration for summer tops or spring or fall kind of summer. Let's call them summer tops. Okay, summerish. So I was looking, I am so easily influenced. I was looking at all kinds of patterns. I was looking at my yarns, and then I found this wonderful yarn, which was gifted to me by a friend. Thank you again. She was thinking of me with that color. And it's a gorgeous yarn by BC Yarn. It's 100% silk. And I thought, wow, this would be great for a summer top. And indeed, I found a pattern. I think it's a free pattern. It's called Summer Light. And because that was, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I thought, yeah, this is great. I'm going to whip this out quickly, and I'm going to be able to wear it right now at the perfect time of the year. So I got going, and I got to the point where you split the sleeves. And then, just gotta say, Houston, I got a problem. And I just, for the life of me, cannot figure out what it is. Look at this. It is beautiful. Isn't it? And I usually can find mistakes. I can figure out stuff when something goes wrong. In this case, I am off by 10 stitches, not 1, 2, 3, by 10 whole stitches. So I just really don't know what to do. And I know that in the original pattern, what happens is you have pattern repeats here, these V's, and this, you have like, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I think you have like 3 pattern repeats for one sleeve, and exactly 3, and then exactly 3 for the other sleeve, of course. And so it's all kind of like it lines up. And here with 10 stitches off, not at all. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, for one, how I could divide differently and still get a good result. But then I gave up because it was late at night when that happened. And I spent some brain power on that, and I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So right now, This is in timeout, even though it's pretty. And eventually I will report back what happens with it. But like I said, I think this beautiful shirt, Summer Light, is a free pattern on Ravelry. And if you don't do what I did, you will have a pretty shirt. What else? My socks. Showed you my socks. Another thing that I have worked on is my shawl with hand spun yarns, all smaller amounts or leftovers in a lace weight to light fingering yarn. And I'm talking about the Outline by Beata of Hedgehog Fibers. I showed you this before, and this has grown a little bit in the meantime since you have seen it. And I still really enjoy working on this. Let's see, this way. And it's growing and growing and growing. And I think it's going to be really nice, especially once it's blocked and can shine in all its glory with all the different colors. Yeah, love it. I have also worked a little bit on my Zaria shawl by Amber O'Brien. It's in a bag, and I put tags on my bags, tags on my bags, because I need to sometimes. I think this is really, really pretty and a really beautiful pattern. Very interesting construction with the spine going close to the upper edge. Hold on, and I'll pinch it between my knees. Now you can see a little bit better. Yeah, I am very much attracted to this color family these days. And what I am using is this yarn, which I won in a giveaway, but it didn't have enough oomph for me, so I overdyed it a little bit. Beautiful merino nylon blend sock yarn, but very soft. And the one I'm using right now, as well as the other yarn that I set aside to combine with it, because this was not a full skein. So I'm thinking that later in the progress of the shawl, I will probably alternate between these two to have it end with this color on the other side. But I'm also planning to use up this. This is a super soft yarn, which I got from Yarning Albuquerque, yarning down in Uphill. 60% superwash merino, 25% Suri alpaca, 15 nylon. It's a kind of a light fingering, 498 yards, and you should touch this. It's so buttery soft. It's wonderful. And I am using, are those 4mm needles? I wanted to say 3.5, but now I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, are these 4mm? millimeters. No, they are 3.5 millimeters. ZiaWoolz, which I love. Okay. Lives in this bag, which is one that I have made, which I love because it's kind of cool because it has this vintage double-sided zipper. See, it goes both ways. Opens this way too. Love these metal things. Not stuck, of course. Yeah, how have you been? Are you knitting in summer? I always knit, and it makes me feel very weird when I can't find a perfect project that grabs me. And it does not have anything to do with the season of the year. Okay, I got the shawl, I got the other shawl, I got the top, I got this, and now let's go back to this baby. Yes, and I'm saying let's go back to it because it was my second attempt at making the Leto cardigan by Natasha Hornby, who is a glorious designer in my opinion, and I'm sure many of you out there will agree. I had already once tried to make this, and do you remember this bag of yarn? You're gonna wonder, why is it like 50 million small balls of yarn? Because it was a sweater at some point that I unraveled because it was super bulky yarn. Not just bulky, super bulky, hand spun. The fibers from the Barefoot Spinner, and the initial yarn was plied. And if I show you the yarn, you're going to say, oh my gosh, why did you ply this? Hold on. Of course, now I'm grabbing one that's different. But my mother and I, we had fun because we undid the plied yarn. So all of the yarn in this bag is singles. And it's gonna be awesome for a very warm cardigan. So I wanted to make the Leto cardigan, and guess what happened? I was ready to rock. I had all done. I had my swatch knitted and all, and I thought, yeah, now I can make this. And it turned out that on the first try that I read that it's a brioche cuff. And then there's kind of, you knit welts, and I thought, oh my God, no, I do not have the brain power for this. So I put it aside, and that was a few months ago, and I thought, now I'm ready to make this. And I really started knitting on the sleeve. And it looks ginormous. Yes, it is. But in the photos, in the pattern pictures, that's how she wears hers. And then I thought, is that too big? And I measured, and the measurement for my size is exactly the same. So down here, I couldn't really tell, but later in the pattern, I thought, oh my God, this is hard as a board. I don't like this at all. And of course, I had to knit a little bit to figure that one out. I mean, I had made a sample, and I couldn't tell. It was fine, I thought. But now I thought, I don't like this, because especially when it's a wide sleeve, you want it loose. And by the way, in case you wonder, for the welts, I used this, which was a yarn that at some point, I think I had gotten this from my neighbor when she moved to Florida, but I overdyed it and I love it. It was kind of like a beigeish brown base color. I held this double, which was also then in itself heavier. But it doesn't matter because it was just one of those welts, as she calls them. And then I also used this hand spun, which I found in one of my leftover yarn bins. And that was these little dots, which I think are really pretty. Well, at some point I stopped knitting and I thought, okay, let's just go up a whole needle size. Yes. So I am right now, oh, I can read that here. Hold on a second. So I did this with 5 millimeters. I think the cuff with 4.5s. And then I moved all the way up to 6 millimeters. And that is soft now. And the fabric I'm getting from this should be soft because the yarn is soft, you know. It has, I feel like I remember it having a little bit of Angora in it. Yeah. It's gorgeous. Look at it. By the way, it's getting darker and darker outside. We're having such a weird day today with the weather. Yeah, so 6 millimeters it is. And I was like, dang, this cost me hours with the brioche cuff and then those welts. And yeah. So, time out for the Leto cardigan, the second time out, but I will get to it. And what I'm probably gonna do, I may even keep the cuff and then rip back to just after the cuff and then start over again. And let me pull up a picture where you can see how wide the sleeves are in the original pattern. Oh, this woman, she's incredible. Look at her. You see that? Yeah, it's a very wide cuff. Well, I'm gonna see if I think I'm gonna see what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna make my decision now because it's in timeout. I'm just showing you. And then, my friends, I did not start the other cardigan. Did I even show you that? Yes, I did. And I did not start that, did not start the other slipover that I had in mind, and I got some new yarns at the yarn store in Taos. Let me see. I wanted to show you all of these. I was just thinking, didn't I have 2 of this? Yes, I do. Got 2 of these. I want to make a giant snuggle shawl with this, which is Pink Adobe Dye Works. doesn't really have a name. Beautiful soft alpaca yarn that Kathy generously gifted me, as well as this one, the knit by the Knitted Wit non-superwash fingering, and it's called, the colorway is called Badlands National Park, which is a beautiful place where I've been to and which I loved when I was there. I mean, I still love it. And then this is ZiaWoolz Aran weight, which is 80/20 merino alpaca. Another beautiful, beautiful yarn. Gorgeous. Yes, that's my yarns from ZiaWoolz. And now I brought something because, you know, I told you how I was in this weird mood where nothing could hold my attention. So I had to find a new knitting project. And what happened was, you're going to say, you did what? I went to the yarn store. I had a delivery of wholesale yarns to the yarn store here in Nob Hill, the yarn store at Nob Hill. And I was cruising the store. I was thinking about making I told you I was thinking about making a summer top, but then I thought, okay, 65 yarns for a summer top that I may not even wear, so that's a no-go. So I just couldn't convince myself to spend that much money for a summer top. And then all of a sudden I found some gorgeous yarn that I had to have, and it was mine. It was ZiaWoolz Sugarloaf, because I always, when I go there, I kind of arrange the yarns by base in the cubbies where it is. And as I was holding these skeins, I just had to have them. So I took them, and I didn't buy them. I'm going to trade them. So I still have to bring some yarn to the yarn store, but it's kind of funny. I'm crazy, I know. So I came home with these two yarns, and especially, I mean, this is the colorway that's called Desert Vibes, but this one was a non-repeatable one. And they had one skein left, and I thought, oh my God, I have to have this. I named it Breathe Deep, and it initially, at some point, it was a batch of 3 skeins, but only one was left at the store. Yeah. That's very me, isn't it? Yes. And then I was talking to Marcus on that day, my knitting friend in Germany, and I was saying, look what I think I need to have that. And he said, if you take that, you have to cast on today. And I thought, yeah, he's right. If I take this, I will cast on today. So I got home and I went through my Ravelry queue, and then I found some Melanie Berg patterns where I thought, yes, I love her patterns, maybe. So I went through all of her patterns, and maybe not even all that I had in my queue, but all of her shawls. And in the end, I decided on only Good Vibes. A pattern by Melanie Berg. This is a giant shawl, and it will take probably more than 2 of my skeins. Sugarloaf is a light fingering yarn, and I am using 3.5 millimeter needles. And I have loved so much knitting on this so far. I am really super happy about my decision. I was really in the mood to make one of these shawls in this shape where I don't have to think too much, but in between I have lace sections. Yes. And I'm almost done with this section now. Like I said, 3.5 millimeter needles, and I have it out in my beautiful mid-century modern wooden bowl. And I have one more pattern that I brought for your inspiration, which is actually a free pattern. The one that I showed you by Melanie Berg, you have to purchase on Ravelry. But this one is one that is actually a free pattern on Ravelry, which is also gorgeous. And I was thinking about making this with one of my own yarns. And because I think this is written for a DK weight yarn, but I have a sport weight, which is this scrumptious alpaca merino, super soft merino blend, and which I call Desert Candy. And so I was thinking, ooh, I want to use that for this shawl, but I haven't started yet, obviously, or I would show you. But I'm going to use one of the colors that I showed you in the last short Fiber Arts Fiesta video, which reminds me that I wanted to thank everybody who stopped by. Thank you all. Many of you came and visited, and many of you came and shopped, and it means a lot to me. Now I want to thank you for that. And I even made some new friends that I didn't even know that they watched the podcast. And I want to say hello to all of you and thank you. And that was about Fiber Arts Fiesta. I have one last thing that I wanted to show you. And that is about spinning, because I've already been thinking about spinning yarns for my Duke City mitts, because that's what I really love to use for Duke City mitts is hand spun yarn, and it's really fun to knit Duke City mitts, these guys, to make them with hand spun yarns. And so I have purchased some braids, and I also have been digging into my fiber braids that I have reserved for myself and set aside in a giant bin, and it's going to be good to use up some of those braids. So I think, no, this was not the first one. Now I got to sort them in time, make a timeline of them. I bought this braid at Fiber Arts Fiesta, and this is by my New Mexican neighbor Deirdre, she's in Las Cruces, and so she sells these and she sells yarn, and I had to get one of her braids of Blueface Leicester fibers, 4 ounces, and I spun that fairly soon after Fiber Arts Fiesta. It's really lovely. And then I saw something pop up on my Instagram by my friend Nanette of Nanette Wake Studio. Nanette has all kinds of gorgeous yarns, and she's a weaver also, and makes project bags from her hand spun, no, project bags from hand woven fabrics. They're awesome. I got some for, she gifted me one, and then I bought some for my daughter and for myself, I think. Yeah, the very first one, I think also Fiona got, or maybe the other way around. But yeah, this one, the first skein by Deirdre, the fibers, those BFL fibers, I spun thicker, and then I thought, oh, I really want to spin fine. And so this one, obviously I spun finer. That's also a 4 ounce, that was a 4 ounce braid, and I did not do any measuring of the yardage, but it's probably a fingering to sport weight. And then I have spun this one, which is Targi fibers, superwash Targi. I have no idea where I got this, maybe in a D-stash, because I probably wouldn't have bought a superwash wool full price. And it's by Sweet Georgia. And this, again, I spun heavier, and this was a delight to spin. Loved it. Still, it's washed and not 100% dry yet. And then I pulled out this from Dancing Hoofs Farm and Studio, and I do not quite know where they are located at. And I believe I bought the fibers in Santa Fe at the Wool Fest last year. So the price was great, and I think they processed their own fibers from their own sheep. And then I'm gonna spill the beans here. So this is the second half of what I had. So one bobbin is already full. So I took this out of I took the label off, and I started handling this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is this slightly matted? Is this slightly felted? What's going on here? Feels very crunchy. Don't know how this is gonna be as a yarn and to spin. But then I thought, okay, you pulled it out, you're gonna spin it. And I started spinning, and I love this fiber. Oh my gosh, it's awesome. I can really pick up a fast pace in my spinning, as it's called, a production. I mean, I have a production wheel. It's a very fast wheel. So I could do long backward draw, and you probably figured it out. Usually I do all 2-ply for my hand spun yarns, and this one, it's going to be finer, and it goes, I finished the other one that I showed you, the Sweet Georgia, before, and I thought, well, I'm just going to start with this, and I filled the whole bobbin. That's how delightful it was to spin. I'm super excited. I feel like I may have one more braid from them in my bin that I bought, because the price was so reasonable. I think it was $16.50 for 4 ounces. That's really very cheap. Usually you pay, I want to say $20 to $22 plus tax for a 4-ounce braid. Yeah. Love this, and I can't wait to get it done today. It is not going to be a soft yarn, but since it's intended for fingerless mitts, it's going to be fine. And I did spin it fairly finely, but if it's too fine to, if I feel like it's too fine to be reasonably knitted up for sale, then I'm just gonna hold it with some mohair. That's a good way to go. Yeah, very excited about getting on with this yarn. Yeah. And that's it, my friends. I said my Albuquerque Fiber Arts thank yous again. Thank you all, and a thank you for all of those who stopped by to visit. Thank you to my helpers, who were, as always, amazing, and it was so much fun to hang out with you and spend the whole day with you. Thank you, Therese, Karin, and Lisa, for spending the day or part of the day with me. And yeah, I keep thinking about it, if I should do this again in 2 years. I'm not decided. I feel like, well, that was a lot of work. And I love vending at knitting retreats, so that I may focus on that. I don't know. We shall see. 2 years to decide, to make that decision. Yes. And it's going to be a while before I see you again, because my brother is going to get into town next week, and there will not be a podcast while he is here, because also, can I have a proud mother moment? My daughter is going to graduate from SDSU, San Diego State University, and she will be graduating in marketing, business marketing. And I can't believe, I do believe it, of course, because she's awesome, because she's my daughter and I love her so much. But she will graduate with summa cum laude, and her next on her, in her future plans, is to hopefully go maybe to Australia for half a year or a year and work there. So how special would that be? Or who knows, maybe New Zealand, but somewhere really to experience something extraordinary. Yeah, as a first work environment. So if you have a job for a newly graduated young woman who is very energetic and ambitious, let me know. Okay, you guys, thank you. I will see you in a few weeks. Thank you for watching. Bye. Happy knitting.